Let's return to events in the Strait of Hormuz. Matteo Renzi served as Italy's Prime Minister from 2014 to 2016, becoming the youngest leader in the country's modern history, just 39 years old. Now, in a nation famous back then for governments that lasted about as long as a swipe on a dating app, his 2.5 years in office actually beats the post-war average. He resigned after putting his job on the line to push for a referendum on reducing the size and changing the composition of the upper house of Parliament, the Senate. He lost, and so he resigned. It brings to mind the famous LP Hartley quote, "The past is a foreign country. They do things differently there." Matteo Renzi, welcome to France 24. Thank you for speaking to me tonight.
It's really a great pleasure to be here again with you.
Let's begin with the Middle East, Matteo. Your thoughts on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran saying it's no longer blockading the strait, it's completely open. President Trump saying the strait is now clear for travel, but the blockade remains on Iranian ports until Iran has agreed all the terms of negotiation. What are you making of the apparent change in the status of the conflict?
It's not easy to understand what happened. First of all, because the announcement of President Trump usually are announcements changed a lot of times. So we don't know what could happen in the next months, in the next weeks, in the next days. But of course, the situation seems a little better, and that is important. The other point, in my opinion, is try to have an European strategy. And I think the meeting of Paris, led by President Macron with Chancellor Merz, Prime Minister Starmer, and the President of Council of Ministers Meloni, it's a very important pillar for the construction of new European strategy.
Tell us about how Italians have been affected, are being affected by what's happened in the Strait, how vulnerable Italy is right now to the energy shocks.
Italy is a very important country for economy more than our narrative. So we have a very great role, a very important presence in the international markets, but we have a great problem with energy. We refused 35 years ago the nuclear. That was a tragic mistake. We had some problem in our supply chain in this sector, and particularly we have a lot of LNG who come from Qatar. So if we have in the Strait of Hormuz a problem, as we had in the last weeks for Italian economy, that is a very bad situation. So my opinion is if Italy will be more closer to the other European allies, that is very important to have a European strategy, because today, of course, Italy is a strong economy, but we have two problems with energy first, and also in our economics, in particular in this time, in the fiscal pressure and in the debt. So I think to have a strategy in Strait of Hormuz is crucial for our economy.
We're watching, as we're talking to you, images of Giorgia Meloni today at the summit here in Paris, as you talked about. She was the first European leader to go to the Gulf to look at other ways of securing energy deals. She's been seen by some as a solid, pragmatic bridge, and she's moved quickly. She's willing to be involved in this post-war military escort mission in the Strait. She's proving, it seems, to be a resilient leader at a time of crisis. What do you make of her as leader?
I think really Giorgia Meloni, she's very strange leader, because she seems solid, she seems a very solid person, but she used to change idea a lot of times. And for example, she changed the idea in every sector with the leadership of the GCC in the Gulf Council, in the Gulf countries. Why? Because she attacked Qatar, Emirates, and Saudi Arabia 5 years ago. Now she was the first to join them, to express solidarity. And I prefer this second Giorgia Meloni. So the Giorgia Meloni who went to Riyadh, to Doha, and to Abu Dhabi. In general, in the foreign politics, Giorgia Meloni changed the idea about everything. Remember, she was with Putin, and then she supported Zelensky, better the second Meloni. She supported Trump, now she supported Macron, Merz, and Starmer. I prefer the second Meloni. She was against the kingdom in Saudi, or the kingdom in Doha, or the kingdom in Abu Dhabi. Now she worked with them for energy. So when you speak about Giorgia Meloni, you have to underline every time if she's the Giorgia Meloni number one or number two. The Giorgia Meloni number two is different guy, a different woman, and I think is a better leader.
Well, whether it's Giorgia Meloni number one or two, she's spoken up this week in defence of Pope Leo, the public war of words with President Trump, who's offended by the Pope's position on calling for an end to the war and his comments around that. How do you view, Matteo, the comparative power of the Pope in world diplomacy?
Well, I think the defending Pope Leo is not a decision of simply of Giorgia Meloni, but of every normal people around the world. Because if you think we have this situation of crisis, and in this time we have the president of the United States who attacked the Pope, I think that is a crazy. So Trump is totally out of the every type of political normality. So we defend the Pope, and at the same time, I think there are two leaders, two American leaders today. One is the leader of American Dream, and that is not the president of the United States, that's the Holy Father, because Pope Leo, Pope Prevost from Chicago, is the real hero of American Dream. The other, the president of the United States today seems not a symbol of American Dream, but a symbol of American nightmare. He had a problem with everyone around the world. He attacked everyone around the world, and I think defending the Pope from the attacks of President Trump is not only a choice by Giorgia Meloni, but from every Italian, and not only from the religious people, not only from the people who believe in God. I think for the people who believe in God, it's normal to defend the Pope. But I know everyone, independently from the single ideas or the single facts, now stay with the Pope against Trump.
And if we look at President Trump, Matteo, friend or foe, and how would you have dealt with him? And is there a model European leader you look at and think, yes, that's more like the path that you'd take?
I think President Trump started his new presidential mandate with a very strong alliance. Everyone supported him. A lot of people wait for his decision. And the President Trump then decided to declare war to the alliance, because he attacked with the tariffs, we attacked with the stupid words, thinking what they said against President Macron, with our Prime Minister, but also other leaders. He attacked Denmark and Europe for Groenland. So it's very strange leadership, the leadership of the man who attacks the best friends, because America and the European Union are the best friends and will be best friends in the next years. But for the moment, with the President Trump, it's impossible to have a normal relation, because his idea is destabilize the world, is the global chaos, is the global disorder. And in this framework, it's impossible to work as in the past. I worked with Obama, it was totally different leadership.
Talking about who you've worked with in the past, let's move quite neatly to Hungary. I would like to get your thoughts, because you spoke in an interview a couple of years ago, Matteo, about populism being a wave. You said it wasn't a permanent fixture in politics. You knew Viktor Orbán. You worked with him. What was he like? And what's it like for you to see change now in Hungary?
I worked a lot with Viktor Orbán, because I was prime minister in 2014, 15, 16, when Viktor Orbán was leader of Hungary. And I discussed with him, because he attacked me for my ideas about flexibility in Europe, or about the idea of migration have to be an European problem and not only an Italian problem or French problem. And when I attacked for that, I remember big President Orbán told us, we don't want this Europe. Okay, my friend, if you don't want this Europe, please give back my money, give back our money, because a lot of Italian money helped Hungary in the past. The reorganization of infrastructure in Hungary, the reorganization of Hungary state was a reorganization led by the Italian, French German money, because that was the European solidarity. And if you want European solidarity, when you have to bring the money, you have also to show the European solidarity when to have to accept the policies for migration, for innovation, etc. That is my opinion about Viktor Orbán. Now he lost. He lost, and we can joke about that because for 16 years, Viktor Orbán was the symbol of populist resistance. Then, when a lot of leaders, as Donald Trump, supported him, he lost for the first time elections after 16 years of government. But jokes apart, I think for Hungary today is time of radical change. We will see what happens in the construction of New Europe. But frankly speaking, I think the most important three elections will be the midterm election in USA in November 2026. Number two, the French election, probably the most important, in April 2027, and then at the middle of 2027, Italian elections. So more important than Hungarian elections.
Matteo, we have 30 seconds. I want to briefly get your thought before we close the programme. Giorgia Meloni lost a referendum. She didn't put her name to that referendum. You must get asked about whether you should have put your name and said you resign if you lost. And I mentioned at the top, the past was a different country. Would you do it differently, or would you stand by that approach?
I think when the people told you nuts is nuts. So I received a clear note when I tried to change constitution with my government, and I decided to resign because I believe in the credibility and in the leadership. Giorgia Meloni decided after she lost the referendum, exactly as my experience 10 years ago, she decided, oh no, I decided to don't resign. I will force to resign only the Minister of Tourism. So when I lost, I used my leadership to resign because I think that is fair. That is the real symbol of responsibility. When Giorgia Meloni lost the referendum, she told us, no, I continue to my job because the only who resign will my minister. I think that is not leadership, but Giorgia Meloni is a woman, very nice in terms of human-personal relation, but absolutely she hasn't courage. She's not a brave woman.
Matteo, we will talk again, I know. Thank you for your time tonight. Have a great weekend. Matteo Renzi, Italy's former Prime Minister
so much.
And leader of Italia Viva Party. Thank you. Stay with us here on France 24. We'll be back in just a moment.